huge disparity. We're not graduating from K-12. We're not graduating from college, even at entry level, meaning, the bachelor's level. So we really do need to increase educational opportunities for Latinas, Latinos, our children of color, starting at pre-K-12, so we can create this pipeline. So we have this number of increasing for us, and again, encouraging our women. Another thing that the research that I found in the research is that we need to have mentorship programs that focus on women and Latinas specifically. There's mentorship programs, but there really isn't a lot that are really geared for, let's help women do this, let's help people of color do this, let's help Latinas. And I do need to write, in my autoethnography, is that there were many men who were very supportive, and they were white men and men of color, my family, people that surrounded me, which is also another cultural characteristic that's important and often not shared in the literature, that you kind of have to give all that up to be successful. And mine is kind of the counter narrative where, no, we need to embrace that, because that's where we're going to get our strength. But again, it's not to say people didn't help, but how do we again increase those numbers? And I think just having this conversation. So I'm glad those of you at P12 that are here, thank you so much, for being here. I hope you're superintendents and you come back to us and you share with us and tell us that that you've made it. And then, provide learning opportunities, which we don't do enough in, I think, in our current program. And we've also talked about, maybe we can have seminars coming back where we're talking about finance and personnel and facilities and non-traditional areas. One of the things that I had the opportunity to do was work as a science consultant. So I was a science person. The other thing, I'm a sports enthusiast, and that really, really helped. So I learned a lot about athletics and the athletic directors. And so again, it helps you to have a good grounded, rounded, character, which superintendent needs. But if we're getting into a male dominated world, then we need to be able to navigate that and be able to talk to them and understand that. I'm not saying we need to become men, but we at least need to tip our toe into that side of the pool and jump in with that. And then again, just inform females of the reality of the superintendent, the revolving door, that it's not a sign of failure, that it's the nature of the position, that we need to move, sometimes from place to place. I found this revolving door when I put it here because it was just so interesting. I know, for myself, I can say one of my contracts was not renewed, and it was just devastating. I felt so bad. But in the research, it said women look at it as being a failure. We didn't do well. We could have done better. What we could have done differently? Where men say, well, that's the way the game is. That's the nature of it. I mean, I've been in workshops where I've heard superintendents saying, I've been a superintendent for 15 years. And then they say, and I've worked in 5 or 6 districts. Well, what that means is probably, or maybe they wanted a choice, but what it could mean is that their contracts were not removed. So they just went on to another job and another job and another job. And again, this is not color related. These are white men, white women, and also people of color. Yes, there are some people who stay, 12 years, which is very, very rare for a superintendent to be in a district that long. But that revolving door, it's not a sign of failure once you get to the superintendency. I was interviewed one time by a doc student, and I can remember him saying that he said, you're like professional baseball managers, that they just keep trading you. You have all the talent, you have all the skills, you just get traded to another team. And so I thought that was just kind of a real positive, nice way to put that. So again, why do we need people of color? Why specifically in California do we need Latinas and Latinos to be superintendents? And that's to provide role models for the children in our schools. Children need to see themselves in us, and also to provide parents with leadership that looks like their children, that their children can aspire to these positions and can be successful in them. And then also to provide leadership with linguistic and cultural attributes that reflect our students. And so I think that's another that's really, really important. How can one prepare, aspire to the superintendent as a real career goal? Make it a goal. Here's what I need to do in the next 10 years, or 5 years or 20 years, and this is what I want to do. Get as much experience as you can in as many leadership aspects as you can. Map out a plan, location, timelines, and be ready to relocate, even as assistant superintendents. These are what the literature calls elite administrators. Once you get into superintendent and assistant superintendent, you have to relocate. I know people in HR and in finance who have relocated 100 miles, 200 miles, and that's part of the reality. And definitely for me as a superintendent, and for most women, relocating is a definite part of what we do, for our jobs. And finally, be tenacious, be prepared, take risks, ask for help, know the community of the school districts, be strong, be faithful, practice self-care, take care of yourself, know that you belong, know your worth, celebrate success. And in my final, as women of color and even women in general, just to celebrate your traditions, and your roots. So that's kind of, I was trying to hurry in 15 minutes. How do you do, like the rest of you, write a 20-page article? But again, thank you so much. And I don't know, Nicole, if we have another presenter, if we want to open up a discussion. I hope that gave us food for thought. So Nicole's our moderator.
Oh yes. Well, I'm going to be the next presenter, but
okay.
This is the perfect space to open it up, as we have colleagues here today. Thank you, Dr. Trace. We have our students at both the master's and doc level, to open up the space to have some time to chat before we transition. That's what's nice about the lunch and learn. So this is a great opportunity for those of you in the space today to ask some questions of Dr. Luna, one through her research, and then two through her professional experiences as well, that maybe you haven't had a chance to get to ask Dr. Luna before. So here we are. So please, as I knock my water over, lunch and learn.
Dr. Luna, I have a question. Have you dealt with headhunters for superintendent positions, and how do you view their influence in this whole process?
Yes, good. Most superintendent positions, you do deal with headhunters, and unfortunately, you have to be very careful with headhunters. Some of them are really geared to promoting their own group. We call it a stable. They're people in the stable, and they kind of use other people for fodder, meaning that we have this group of people from Fresno State that we're going to put in, but we have to bring in some outside candidates. And so just kind of understanding how that worked was very interesting. But your headhunters are really, if they give you their personal phone number, you really need to call them and say, I'm really interested. I want this position. What do I have to do? Because the headhunters are hired to bring in the best person. So again, depends who they're working with. But if they're truly working for the districts and open, those headhunters can be a real ally, and they will give you the behind the scenes information. I've had headhunters say, try doing this, try doing that. So that's really important, that you make that connection with that headhunter, make them your friend, and use them, as a resource. So.
Yeah, it's interesting how, unlike any of the other positions, superintendency has that headhunter aspect of that. And it seems like of the different organizations that run that, there's a few larger ones in the California that I tend to see connected with EdJoin and kind of, in all of our AXA magazines, all of the things that we get.
Yeah.
So,
So you got
is
to
it
blow their socks off when.
okay? So really, then you get connected. It sounds like you need to get connected with those organizations, even almost like they're your manager if you were like an actor, actress, or something like that. Okay, so you get involved with them if that's even before a position opens.
Exactly. And that's what it is. It's about starting relationships before that. And for some of you that are in district office, positions, another person to get to know really well, this is a shh, but it works, is the attorneys, the district's attorneys, whoever they are. I know here in the Central Valley, Lozano Smith is one of the big ones, Andelson Atkins. But getting to know those attorneys, they have an internal pipeline to districts oftentimes, which people don't think of, right? So that's your bonus for being here. Don't share.
That's some interesting insight. I've only worked from the administrator side of that as far as with PERB hearings for classified staff that had gone ahead, or any other tumultuous kind of times where we needed that sort of guidance on a conference call, but not had ever thought of that in regards to getting hired in a superintendent type role.
And also know board members. If you know any board members out there, get to know them, because also board members know each other, so they often talk to each other. So that's another really good way. But don't be afraid to get out there, and you really, you can gently, I guess, sell yourself. People, when I say sell yourself, I mean put yourself on the market, let people know you're interested, go to different kind of events where superintendents are. And it was a really great adventure. I just want to end. I want to make sure I give Dr. Walsh enough time for her presentation, but this was autoethnography. So if any of you are thinking of writing your research and writing from your own perspective, I would be glad to help you with that. Autoethnography was different for myself, and so I had some people helping me, but it was a fun introspective experience. And as I say, there's a lot of helpful people out there, many men, because that's who are in superintendent positions, right? So my mentors were men, and they were white men, and they really, they helped and they understood the challenges. I had Latinos and other, also helping me along, but so there's a lot of help out there. We just need to say, I need help. Give me some ideas. So, thanks, Dr. Walsh, and thank you those of you who attended. I hope this was helpful for you.
Yeah. Are there any other thoughts or questions before we transition? I want to make sure that you students get an opportunity to, grapple, question, consider. Maybe superintendent's not what you're considering, but it's helpful to understand the role when you're working with superintendents in other administrative roles.
Even assistant soups, and if you do get to that level, make sure you let me know. It's not a one interview. I actually had people come to my school district where I was an assistant soup. I had two board members came and interviewed teachers, interviewed administrators, interviewed community people. So make sure that you have a cadre of people out wherever you are that can assist you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's fascinating, really. Yeah, of course. Well, thank you. So I'm going to do a commercial. This is hey, I see some applause, some little hands out there applauding. I know that's always the funny part with these things, right? But this is more like a round table. So we're relaxed here.
Thank you for letting me share.
All right. I think Dr. Trace she gave you thumbs up and a high five. So that's awesome. All right. Well, for those of you in the space, I know most are in the Valley, some of you over on the Central Coast, but something we wanted to be able to share during our P12 session, and some of you already are either currently finishing up or just finished your administrative credential, or something that you're working towards, or something you're like, yeah, I realize that's not for me. That's okay. I know there's some of those in our space today too. But what we wanted to highlight is something very exciting so that you can share with your networks as we move forward. And Dr. Luna and I, not only, and Dr. Trace, all three of us are in the teaching the doc program and support dissertations and so forth. But Dr. Luna and I teach in the P12 admin program, which includes the master's and the administrative credential for California. And Laura knows, because the beginning stages began with where her cohort, when things were kind of interesting as we began implementing the Cal APA and their cohort. Laura, thank you again. You gave us so much good feedback that it got us really on the right path to realizing we needed to update and change some things in an effort to well, it was just time. It was time because our standard, we had the CAPES and the new Cal APA assessment. So some things in the way, it's not the content that was not right. It was just that the structure was a little crazy, right? All right, Laura? So we wanted to highlight something that just actually, as in hot off the press, like Monday, officially, it's in the catalog for fall 2021. We wanted to be able to share something that our group's been working on tirelessly, right, Dr. Luna? We've all been working tirelessly to make this happen through great support of all the committees through Fresno State, from the college level through the university level. So as these are going to be, starting fall 2021, our new course offerings for the admin masters and then credentials. So anyone that you know, if they already have their masters, that's fine. They can still come into our program. They just won't have to do particular courses that are related to the masters, but they will still earn their administrative credential with us. The courses on the right-hand side here, let me add my little cursor highlighter. Over here are the ones that are specific to the masters, and then our core courses are for you take with the masters, or if you already have a master's, you just take these courses and you will be working towards your administrative credential for P12 in California. And so what's exciting is that we've, based off the feedback again, so Laura, I'm giving you props because she's so great. You're so great at giving us lots of feedback and having great discussion with all of us, and in bringing back feedback from the group. But we have our core courses, which instead of these 7-week things that we rush through and then we start with a new instructor, that now they're redesigned. They're redesigned so that they're one course through the semester, and you'll maintain one instructor through the semester, right? Like, woo. And I know, see, I knew it. Thank you for showing your face. And by the way, your background looks good. And then we have a seminar course, which helps to bridge that gap between the fieldwork component and your mentor, and then getting some time to do some discussion that's more of this open-ended piece, which, whether down the road we're going to have 2 models, a blend of the face-to-face model and an online model. So we hope to broaden our reach as we have with a doctoral program into other areas of California as well, because we've built so many new partners through our doc program. So that's why no matter where you're at, I know we all have different networks. We're excited to share this. These leadership seminars will really focus on the dispositions, get us an opportunity for more of like roundtable type discussion. And no matter if you're face-to-face or not, these are going to be virtual. So these courses will be the face-to-face, so you're not driving around 2 days a week. Instead, you can just hop on, and it's like a once-a-month kind of seminar. And again, bridging the learning and the practice and the theory, so it's more like a praxis sort of seminar where it comes together. So we have that. We also will rearrange it, so our focal areas will go 1 to 3, because that has been super confusing. Yay, I got a thumbs up. Oh, this is great. Good feedback already. Notice we also aligned our course numbers, which we learned was a big deal in higher ed, right? So it makes more sense for the learner and for our candidates. You can see the alignment 1 goes with Cal APA 1, 2 Cal APA 2. Oh, it's beautiful. And then 263, you'll see is the same, a similar class, new name, but it's going to go through the entire semester instead of that rush to learn how to coach in 7 weeks, which we know is a really heavy lift. And then our site-based leadership 273, which will also go through the semester with, but nicely aligned, so it's not 2 nights a week. So we wanted to share that, and I'm happy, Laura, that you're in this session because I actually, really, you and Crystal and some of your other cohort have been a great wealth of information to help us grow and make this for the next 15 years, as the previous model was. And of course, Dr. Trace, I think you many times are the instructor for this, and or one of your compadres in educational stats.
We've done the 153, and we've also done the 244. So those
right.
are
Oh, good. Yes.
classes to teach.
Yes. So that's exciting. So Dr. Trace, we're glad you're here with us too. Oh, where you can get this flyer, actually. Oh, I have so many tabs up after all the monitoring today. So let me get a link in there for everyone. And actually, as I'm getting that link for you, I wanted to let you know that we have another, we're taking more applicants for fall 2021 in this new model with the face-to-face component with the blended seminars. Through May. Dr. Watson sent me a text, so let me get you the right date so I don't say something incorrectly.
Dr. Bosch,
yeah,
we're still having the North and the South cohort, right? So that
we are. So for fall, we're looking. Thank you. Yeah, we have one cohort will be out of at University High School, so on the Fresno State campus, but with University High School as a partner. As a charter, but then also part of Fresno County office, and then and Fresno Unified, and then also we're having a cohort out of Kings Canyon Unified in their district office. They have a nice facility, and that will be our South Valley cohort. Although members can choose and work with Dr. Watson. She's currently our coordinator, and then she is now completing her tenure, and Dr. Jessica Hannigan is going to be shifting into the role of a P12 coordinator. So that'll be exciting as well, as we all kind of share the load and the work in moving that forward. So I had our
well, Dr. Walsh is doing that. I don't know if some of you want to show us your smile so we could take a group picture.
Oh, thanks for doing that, Dr. Lumi. Yeah, that's great. While they're getting on, I put in the link to our master's page to apply today. I don't know yet if this new graphic has made its way onto the website yet, but it will be very soon.
Yeah, I don't see it on here, Dr. Walsh.
But no, I think though,
it'll be there soon, as you say.
Yeah, it will be. And you know what? I'll add it to our attendees page in a little while. I can add it as a resource onto the page.
Where did Brenda go? I was going to take a picture. Sorry, Brenda. I went to look at the, that was Brenda that came on. Right there you are. Okay. All right. Well, let me do this for us. I'll tell you when, so we can all have a big, whoops. Let's see. 2, 4. There we go. All right.
Okay, tell us when, because I'm getting my other.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, thank you.
All right, I'm switching screens here, and it's funny since today we're using the different platform, I normally would just put my file up in the chat and share with you, but it didn't give us breakout rooms or files through this RBA account that we had to use. So I apologize for that. But I will add this file to the attendees list once we're done here and there's that transition time. And then talk to the Dr. Watson about having it on now that we're official this week. So I'm just making a note right now. Love the lunch and learn. Okay, well, there's a couple things to share. First of all, on the attendee page, there is a link to symposium resources. So for all the presentations today, for the ones that were made available to us, they're all in PDF form for you to go back and look at and to connect with. There's also articles from the other session and so forth. One of the ones, Dr. Nancy Akavan couldn't be with us today, but I wanted to share in the chat, and it's also, you can download it from this link. Some work that we've done in regards to the cognitive apprenticeship for writing instruction. And I would say it's more of an instructional focus on helping support teachers in writing instruction through a model of coaching. And then that model of coaching, the teachers used with the learners, with the kids, and it was focused on elementary school. So if coaching is in your wheelhouse, language, writing instruction, and ways that we can think about that work as leaders and how that can impact our students at the site, as well as help build efficacy in our teachers for writing instruction, because we know that's an area where we've seen in the research for years that teachers don't always feel efficacious, that maybe they need more support. I posted that article. That's an open access for some work regarding that. So if that I don't know, wets your whistle, you can go over there and pull that one down so that you can investigate and look into that. And gladly, either she or myself can further discussion if you have any questions on that work. That work represented many school districts over. Nancy's data was almost over 10 years across districts in the Valley for her literacy work. And then my job was to help put it together and write. So we teamed up on that. So anyhow, I wanted to share that as promised. And then let's see, the next one is what I'm going to share with today, which is some work I've done recently. It was a few-year project that ended up with a few presentations, but a nice final article. The article, however, is not on an open access. It happens to be in a Sage journal that was really expensive to make open access, as in I'm learning this world, $6,000 to make open access, not like $100 like some of them. So for those, since you're all students in the room or us as faculty, I did put the permalink because they do have access now to that journal at Fresno State. Originally, it was not available. So I'm excited to be able to share this one, but I'm going to talk about that work today. For those of you who've gotten to know me through different coursework and such, know that I have a passion for coaching and supporting teachers to help empower and develop capacity so that they feel they can do the same for their students. And an area of passion that my good friend and colleague, Dr. Harrington, and I had when we were principals was, and then as we worked into the realm of scholar, was this understanding and getting more research around alternatively permitted teachers. Because what we saw as principals, and this happens in elementary, but especially hard, especially at middle school, because it's already, you have to have a heart for that. But as we hired those with alternative permits, meaning the ones that haven't necessarily started any credential coursework, You know, we were having people bring their keys up front to the office 5 days in, like, I'm done, here's my keys, I can't do this. And then it becomes a cycle of substitutes in the classroom, and managing that, and knowing that we're not meeting the needs of our students in those types of environments. So just a really, because in the end, it impacts our kids, and it impacts the ones who are most underserved always the most, because the research shows that unfortunately that's where our least experienced or credentialed teachers tend to be. So instead of trying to fight that, because we know there has been over recent years a need for teachers, how can we embrace it and say, if we're going to open these, you know, we have these spaces, we're in need, then what's our role as site and district leaders in, if we're saying we're going to hire someone who's yet finished schooling, then what is our role in helping support that work? And that's really been our work around cultivating connections and efficacy. So in that work, we originally started a pilot. So we did some research. We implemented a pilot with one large school district here in the Central Valley. And then from the pilot, then we developed research questions and worked with interviewing teachers, doing some survey work, and triangulating the data so that we can help to better understand how the work that we did impacted those alt permit teachers, and then what could we do differently and continue to improve, and from a mindset of continuous improvement. And it's exciting to know this work started about 3 years ago, and the district is maintaining the work that we started, which was just out of a small pilot with the research. And they moved from using grant funding to actually using sustainable, regular general funding to help support this work under ESSA, because it's supporting new teacher development. So that's really exciting work, and they saw a huge need for it, and then they saw it impacted it, and then they were able to make the adjustments based off our research and continue the work today. So that's what's exciting. And then we finally got the article published, so that was a bonus there. But we really wanted to look at if there was some significant difference in perception of efficacy around particularly classroom management, classroom instruction, and behavior in the classroom, and how really using Tashana Moran's and Wolfall Coy's version of efficacy to help shape that. They have a great survey that's she's been great on, use what you want for anything, because I'm always using her work, but also to help them continue moving forward to getting their preliminary credential, because a lot of what we've seen is, well, this is some compiled data I'll get to, but we've seen that the alt permit teachers end up like mid-year, they have to drop out of their job. And that's because they didn't realize or understand the implications of their, when they get their alt permit, when they're allowed to start it, and whether it's a 12-month or it's from academic year to academic year, or start to start, because it depends on the different alt permits. But this was some interesting data. I don't have the newest one from last year, partially because after they moved in and then COVID, the state's been working on other things. But as you look ahead at how many credentials are being issued year to year, it's pretty much stayed, we've increased a bit, but not huge amounts. It's definitely not to meet the demand of new hires that the state continues to have, which is why the alt permit is so necessary. The difference between the alt permits, however, and the old emergency credential, the old emergency, you could go 5 years with it. There wasn't a lot of oversight. And what they said now is that the alt permits have to, they have particular timelines, and one is a calendar year and one's from start for academic, like academic year. So if they start in October, it goes to the end of the academic year, and that's it. And if they don't finish then they're done, and they can apply for the other one. So really they have like 18 months to finish up what they need to be fully credentialed. So that was important to see. As the research has gone through the years, there's a lot of reasons why we're seeing these gaps in, and this is pre-pandemic, but these large needs and expectations for needing to fill positions in teaching at a higher demand than what we're creating. There is a huge perception of teachers not feeling prepared. These are the ones that leave within the first 3 to 5 years, not feeling like they're supported, their working conditions, dissatisfaction with pay, and so forth. The newest research that Darling Hammond has put out from this past year also adds the new layers, which they're really seeing rural and urban settings are hit the hardest with teacher turnover and new teachers leaving, which isn't probably surprising to us in our area because we have so many rural schools, and we have some urban setting schools as well. We have quite a rich and diverse educational field here in the Valley. So we definitely see that. I think being in education, we've all kind of known that, but now we have large scale national research to back that up. And then interestingly, one of the big ones is the link to feelings of poor leadership, which really has an impact for us as we work to aspire towards those roles, but also probably not surprising. So when they felt like administrators were disorganized, didn't know what their purpose was, weren't able to communicate needs, made the school feel a little hectic, and didn't buffer those types of feelings for our new teachers, they really were unhappy and they left. And I don't think that, to me, wasn't too surprising. Yes, and it does absolutely makes this super important, right? As we really work to make sure that we're creating environments that create or cultivate and foster success for everyone, and feelings that I can do this and I can make a difference for students, for sure. Unfortunately, and we know this as we all go through educational programs, we never feel prepared. I don't think, though, that's necessarily means that all the preparation programs aren't doing a great job. I mean, we always can do better. But one thing I always talk to my admin students about is you're learning all these capes and you're putting this into practice, but we can't teach you. There's no way you can know every possible situation that could come in front of you when you become a new vice principal and then a principal and so on, right? Because we work with people. What we can do is work on developing dispositions, developing skill sets that could be used that are adaptable in various situations. And but your first years of teaching and your first years of admin, I can tell you, you always never feel prepared. So I kind of laugh at this one, and that's from my own, 20 years ago as a new teacher, then as bits of support provider for new teachers, then a support provider for new administrators, being at one point a new administrator myself, right? It's common. So just some theoretical frameworks before I move forward on where we came from. I really a proponent of their coming from a lens of experiential teaching or experiential learning, that we learn by doing, we learn by practice in practice. One of my favorite quotes from Linda Darling Hammond, because it's a praxis. It's the theory and the practice happening simultaneously. That's how we develop in education, from the teacher lens to the leader lens. And as leaders, we have to empower and support. And then I already shared with you teacher efficacy and work there. So this is interesting. I'm going to share our outcomes first, and then I want to talk about actually the practicum, the pilot that we did, because this could be like a whole course of things. But in the end, after running the pilot, there were a lot of factors that were important. We had increases in all areas of efficacy, but we had significant results in instructional efficacy, which also was expected because individuals may have been like pharmacists and said, hey, I want to go be a teacher now. So I'm going to teach high school biology, but they never, we've all been learners, but we haven't all taught. And so they come with alt permits with little to no formal teaching experience. So that wasn't too surprising, although I thought that we'd get more significance in behavior, in the behavioral piece. It showed up more in the qualitative components, particularly around their mentors and the support from those who had really supportive ongoing mentorship that was provided to the alt permit teachers really felt empowered and felt that they could help manage their class better because they got lots of ideas and so forth. And just to let everyone know, with alt permit programs, they're not, school districts aren't required to provide induction, which includes the mentorship. So there are kind of these, they fall through the cracks. That's why this is a district has to commit resources above and beyond what they're required to do to make this happen. You're right, Laura, it makes absolutely no sense. That's why I got super impassioned by this work, right? And seeing people with great intentions just crash and burn, right? And yet here we are hiring them. So that's why we have a role in that. So the other thing we noticed or we found was just this better understanding of credentialing timelines because of that piece that even though you think, oh, they're adults, they should know. Well, yeah, maybe that's all true, but they're working full time, they're going back to school. And many of these alt permits tend to not be your traditional, what you might think of person coming to education. They tend to be more second career. We found that we were recruiting through alt permits. We also recruit a more diverse teacher pool, which is fascinating and interesting in that realm, because that's something that we struggle with in some more traditional settings. So there's definitely a lot of assets to this model, as long as we can develop structured supports that are systematic, and we work with partners, which I'll show you in a minute. But also investing time, allowing risk taking, and having, it goes right along with that other research. The ones that felt most supported had administrators on site who checked in with them, who connected them with other supports on campus, who made them feel that they could go to the administrator and say, hey, I've got class tonight, I'm gonna have to leave, right after the bell. Can I get someone to cover yard duty? Or, I'm trying to meet these credential timelines. And they worked with the teacher and they felt comfortable to work side by side, so that the administrator became, in essence, that supportive role that opened the highway so that they could do what they needed to do and work together. The sites where that was not the case, and it was maybe more a top down, they didn't feel comfortable going in. If they did, it was less flexible, really struggled to be able to move forward. So you can see why I also have a lot of themes around with agriculture and plants, because it's coming from that coaching lens of cultivating, creating environments that cultivate requires investment, and it requires that kind of soil, right? That's been tilled and worked so that it can be a partnership that allows it to grow and foster, rather than like hitting hard pan, which is kind of what the teachers felt at some of the other sites, even though they were doing our other pieces of our program. Oops, touch that. So another piece that surfaced, also not surprising based off my experiences, but now we got to formalize it with our research, is that those going into special education settings require even more support. And unfortunately, they got less. We had some struggles with regular mentoring for those teachers that surfaced, which actually uncovered a nice thing for that school district to kind of clean up as far as how they're deploying their coaches and mentors. And also, they just, the complexities of SPED with the law, the federal laws, the timelines, the paperwork, the expectations, the caseloads. And so they're like 2 credentials behind. They're coming to teaching without a credential, and they don't have the SPED credentials. So they don't even have the extra learning pieces. So those surfaced as really important components. Some of the pieces, though, just to show you, and I did link in the resources page, I did upload the article as well, but remember, you can go to the permalink to get some of the more particulars. But we did create a non-ramping program, which was like a 2-week seminar to kind of, we really focused on the Harry Wong's the first days of teaching, just because he cuts to the chase and he has new additions and everything, but just to help with those structures and routines and thinking about how we set up the room, all those things that they've never been exposed to, or very little exposure. The other components were making sure to build partnerships with all of the potential credentialing programs, instead of working against one another, instead working in tandem, because different programs can provide different models, of course, at different price points as well. So, but that allowed the alt permit teachers to look at, I only have 6 months, because I didn't know this, to finish. So Fresno State's not going to work for me, because that credentialing program doesn't have summer, or, because we're CSU, we have to follow some different parameters. However, some private universities can do, they're doing like these 6-week wraparounds. They have some different models. It costs more. So it's different. But what we did is we provided these sessions that actually my colleague and I helped support. And then we had people come in through using Zoom in the room. This was pre-pandemic. So, but that way we could capture a lot of voices, and they could share aspects of their program to educate those in the room in case they needed those quick turnarounds, or look at their commitments if they were student parents, that sort of thing. That was really critical and really helpful. And then we also worked with the district, because they had, this was for the on-ramping workshops. And then we made that overlap with workshops that the district provided through their teacher development. But we ensured that those teachers went to them. So we kind of were able to build in some, well, now they're required for any alt permit. We did it through monetary like stipends that we had with a grant. So we could encourage that, but almost all of them who were in the work that we were doing would attend. So, and we made sure to capture those voices. We made sure to teach them about the differences between these alt permits, the difference between the provisional, the short term, and the intern permits, and what those mean and don't mean, and what their timelines mean, which I won't get into now. But what we found is they didn't know. And the HR would say, well, we gave them a paper, but that's a lot different than having a workshop where you learn and grapple with it and have supports there. Then we developed the district. At the time, my colleague was working in HR in this district. So we created this credential progress profile to help monitor. It was to help monitors, but not in a sense of accountability, like if you don't do this, you lose your job, but more to help keep track, because there's so many layers and it's overwhelming. That's what we heard time and again. It's overwhelming. And they're working full time, and most of them were parents of like kids who were in high school all the way to little ones, right? So it's a lot, and we all know that going to school around the second time and third time around, right? So the monitoring was helpful, and the principals or administrators that would meet with them on a regular basis and just do a quick like 10-minute check-in. How are you going for your progress profile? Those alt permit teachers did better and perceived that they could do it even though it was hard, and really felt that those check-ins were powerful. That was not something that was required. That was something that surfaced from particular leaders. oh yeah, so then as we move forward and you see the little seeds growing, the district ended up assuring mentor support for years 1 and 2 during the alt permit. They saved resources for up to 600 teachers because this district has upwards of 300 alt permits in a given year. From 180 to 300 we saw between a few years. Building in some professional learning as part of the work, which was really, really exciting. And then committing to having also lead teachers recognized on site. And celebrating those intent to hires. And then when they do recognize that it's an alternatively permitted, instead of going, oh, we have that over here. Oh no, we know it's going to fail. No, let's empower, let's set the stage or cultivate the soil for success. And so I do have, there's a blog that I can give you too. From doing our article in this work, they have, it's similar to, and I know we're getting here on time, but we're doing good. This is a blog that Lisa and I did in kind of in summary to the more formal article. So it's more of a practitioner piece where I kind of summarize a little bit more around the pieces that worked and then highlighted what else we could do moving forward. So I put that in the link as well. And then again, I'll put the permalink to the more formal article. But the blog was good, and it's the journal was out of Canada, and so this links kind of like to AERA, but the Belmas group. So there's a bunch of SIGs, but they call them RIGs instead of SIGs. And anyway, it was fun to interact. And actually, there's some really great blogs on there, and it's just nice to see and hear new and different perspectives. But they also were experiencing similar things. So I wanted to share those in the chat. And you can always email me because I realize it's 1:38. And I want to give you guys a little bit of time so you can stretch and such before the next session, which will start at 1:45. But I'm happy to stay here and hang out to answer any questions if you have any. I guess my biggest takeaway though is that if we're going to do this, we need to support, and that if we choose this model, we actually can help retain a more diverse pool of teachers, and we can have some more consistency in our special education classrooms, as long as we do the work as leaders to make that successful.